Welcome to a new episode in our series, Becoming a Traditional Astrologer in the 21st Century. Today, we have a guest from England, Sharon Knight. Welcome.
Thank you, Volker. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with your presence before we jump back to interesting themes in your past. You are at the moment the president, the chair of the Association of Professional Astrologers International.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, we will come back to that later. But now we jump back in your biography. We have 3 chapters in this video, and I have the right to publish this video uncut and unedited on my homepage and on YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute. And Sharon has the right to do whatever she wants with the footage, so she can cut it and edit it whatever she wants to. Okay, that's not. So let's jump back. First chapter. My way to Olivia Berkeley.
My way to Olivia Berkeley was actually through a chap called Mike Edwards, who sadly departed, and funnily enough, the faculty of astrology. So the faculty of astrology is the oldest established school here in the UK. And I started studying at night school. This was in the mid-80s. Okay. In those days in the UK, they had what was called adult education classes. And for a small fee, you could go and learn different subjects. And in those days, astrology was one of the subjects. And I started studying with Mike Edwards. Now, Mike Edwards was a classicist. And he was also trilingual. So he was fluent in French and I think it was Italian. He knew an astrologer called Denis Labourier, who is French. And I think it was through Denis that Mike studied Morin de Villefranche.
Morin de Villefranche, okay.
So Mike was quite into, can't call it medieval, not quite medieval, but he was into traditional astrology, as we call it today. And in his adult education classes, he primarily taught the system of Morinus. But of course, as a beginner in the mid-80s, I had no idea. I was just absorbing all this knowledge. And at the same time, or a little bit later, I decided to study for professional qualification. And then there was only really the faculty of astrology in the UK. So I joined their program, I did their certificate course, then I did their intermediate course, and I was on their diploma course. And I have said this on another interview, that what happened was, because I'd been so well schooled by Mike Edwards, I was incorporating traditional predictive methods in modern psychological astrology.
Sort of heresy in a psychological school.
It was. And my tutor at the time, she just sent my paper back with a big red cross through it saying, we do not allow prediction. And I thought, well, what is the point of astrology if you don't predict?
You are a heretic.
So, however, I was booked into the summer school, and I went along to the summer school. So they have a week in Oxford. It's absolutely divine, and they have wonderful teachers from around the globe who come and speak. Anyway, I was sitting in the quadrangle and feeling quite glum because I was going to give all this up. And a very, very dear chap, Ron Gwynn, said to me, what's wrong? And I said, oh, you know, you're not allowed to predict. I can't see any sense in this. It's ridiculous. And he patted my hand and he said, my dear, you need Olivia. And he wrote down Olivia's telephone number because he I didn't know, was her, I think her first QHP holder. And Mike Edwards was her second.
Okay.
And so I rang Olivia. When I got back home, I rang Olivia the very next day. And she said, well, come down, because I lived in Sussex. So it was only, what, 80 odd miles.
Where in Sussex?
Then I was living in Hove, near Brighton.
And Olivia was living where?
Just outside Deal in Kent.
Okay.
So it's about 80, 90 miles. So I went to see her in her cottage.
Is that a small village?
Yes, it's a very small village.
So countryside?
Yes, it's in the countryside, but I think she was probably only a couple of miles from the seafront, from the seaside.
How do you spell the village name?
Deal, but in actual fact, her village was, I think, Great Mongham, which is great, and then Mongham was Mongeham.
Okay, so everybody can look it up on the Google map where that is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And she took to me because I'm Sag rising, and she's Sag and Leo rising, and didn't we know it?
Now let's pause here. Now we have finished the first chapter and we're going now into the second chapter. My time with Olivia Barclay and my classmate John Frawley. Let's do it step by step. Did you go there by car? Or
yes, I drove to Olivia's.
And then you found the cottage and you pushed the bell.
Pushed the bell.
What happened next and what was your first impression?
This lady with purple hair and half glasses.
Purple hair?
Purple hair. Her house, the interior of her house was purple.
Oh, okay.
The bedroom that I used to stay in, up in the eaves in her house,
in the
was
attic.
all purple.
Yeah.
You see, she was an artist.
Okay. So she was painting pictures?
Yes, she was. I can't remember if she was an illustrator, but in her house, she decorated the walls. But so purple was her signature color.
What did it make with your you came here, pushed the bell, and the lady opens with purple hair? What was your first thought?
Well, I was agog. You know, this was an incredible woman that I'd heard about from Mike Edwards, but I don't think Mike realized how serious I was about studying astrology, because I was one in.
So did you feel like entering a new age surrounding?
Yes, it was. I've come home.
Okay.
It really was.
So you yourself are of the new age generation.
Yeah, well, I'm now rising 63 in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was 85. I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
Very early 30s when I met Olivia.
So you didn't have a problem with the purple?
No, not at all. I've never had a problem with anyone's appearance.
Okay.
Because I like people. And
so what happens next? Did she invite you for tea?
Yeah, I can't. Actually, I think I got there for lunch. She said, go down for lunch.
Okay.
And we sat and chatted right through into the evening.
And was she vegetarian?
Do you know, I can't
Considering
remember.
the purple hair.
I really can't remember, but her car number plate was Joker.
Oh, okay.
That I do remember.
Okay.
Her car number plate was
So
Joker.
what did you talk about till the evening?
Well, I think we discussed learning horary astrology and having Mike Edwards and Ron Gwynn in common. So once she knew I was a dedicated student of Mike Edwards, she was more than happy to take me on as her personal student. And that was it. I mean, I couldn't get enough. Every time she extended an invitation to go and stay, I was in my car and there before she'd even put the phone down. She was fascinating. She was a brilliant teacher because she was so enthusiastic. And one of the best stories from Olivia is that she started studying astrology in her 20s. But
that was in the 30s, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. The books that she found only gave 6 of the signs and 6 houses. And it was only later that she understood that the computations only needed to give you the 6.
Yes, yes. If you
because then
compute
you
it sharp by yourself, the rest is obvious.
Yeah, it was obvious. But so that was always a funny story she told against herself when first learning astrology. She was a very...
Did she ever tell you how she learned it? By books only?
By books. Yeah, she taught herself.
And she didn't have found the Christian astrology yet in the 30s of last year?
No. That came much later. I don't know how much later, but I know she used to go to the Astrological Lodge in London, which is where she palled up with Clive Cavan and Dawn Coven. They were the ones who produced the Regulus edition of Lily. Now, Mike Edwards had part of Lily that he'd found in a junk shop. Olivia had part of Lily, and somebody else, I think, had a few pages of Lily. So they got together and amalgamated the pages. And then she and Mike Edwards agreed that Clive and Dawn could take their pages and use them to produce the facsimile of Christian astrology.
Which is Old English. How do you call that in your country? Is it Edwardian English, or how do you call it?
No, it's Old English. I mean, look, this is my working copy.
Oh, okay.
I have a perfect copy up by my bed.
Yeah, okay.
That I only read with clean hands and don't have tea stains on it and things.
Yeah.
No, this is well, I guess it's the English as Shakespeare wrote
Shakespearean English, okay.
Yeah, and again, where I was so fortunate was that at school we read Shakespeare in Old English.
And this Old English is a problem, isn't it?
It's
for people who read the facsimile.
It's a problem for those who are not English, who've learned English, because things like the F's and S's look the same. They're sort of long and curly. And of course, the spelling of the words is different. And one very important thing to remember is that over the last 400 or 500 years, meanings of a lot of the words have lost their definition from the time of Shakespeare, so the meanings of the words have changed. And so for people who are not English speakers, I think it's very confusing.
Is that the case between British English and American English as well? Have the Americans the same problem?
I wouldn't think they've got quite the same problem as a non-native speaking English person.
Okay.
And of course, in America, there wasn't the censorship that we had in the UK.
Yes.
So there was a lot more exposure to texts from, say, the 16th, 17th, up to the 19th century. If we think of Luke Broughton in America, and of course the Sibleys in America. And I think because America was encapsulated so many different languages, that the Americans today, I don't think, I haven't heard them say they've got a problem with the Shakespearean type English. But of course, then there was David Rolls, American Classics, and he reset the whole of William Lilly and put it into modern English.
And that's why you're recommending for the non-English speaking people not to read the classic facsimile, but this edition.
The David Rolls one.
What publisher is that?
I'll have to get it. Hang on. It's this one.
Oh, that's on the top. You have to turn it. No, it's still wrong.
Still the top. It's published by Astrology Classics, Astrology Center of America. I don't know if the website is still going, because he died apparently a few years ago.
Okay.
But can you see that?
Not really, no.
No.
It seems that the writing is from left to right instead of the normal.
All right, the camera's turning it backwards.
But yes, but let's try again. This how do you say the Astrology Center? Astrology
Classics.
Okay.
The publishing division of the Astrology Center of America.
Okay, that should be enough to find it on Google. Okay, yeah. So that is for non-English speaking as a mother language. Okay, now let's get back to your time with Olivia Barclay. This one-to-one teaching, you had the privilege with Olivia. How was she personally as a teacher?
She was very strict, very strict, and she could be very abrupt.
Okay.
And if you didn't have a desire to learn, she, I think, could be quite cutting.
She could be throwing you out of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
was she? How tall was she?
Oh, she was quite. She was short, definitely shorter than myself. She may have been about 5'5". I'm 5'7", so and she came up.
How would that be in European meters?
Probably about 1.5 meters.
1 meter 50 centimeters, something like that. That's a small, not so tall person.
No, she must be bigger than that. She must be
160 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you have problems with this strict regime, or did you accept it?
I accepted it. I wanted to learn.
Did you love it, the strict regime?
I loved it.
Okay.
But I love history. I have Saturn first house.
Okay. Yeah, that
so
helps.
Perhaps,
yeah.
You know, that gives me the love of history.
What house system do you use for saying something like I have Saturn in my first house? Is this a whole sign house system when you say I have Saturn in the first house?
Whichever house system, so quadrant or whole sign, my Saturn is in the first.
It's always in the first house.
It's always in the first.
Okay, so now let's go. The influence of Olivia Barclay is rather elementary and important for the horary development in Great Britain and in the world. And there must have been more than this one-to-one classrooms. Did she teach classes?
Not to my knowledge. It was a correspondence course.
Okay, now that gives me the opportunity to ask, in one of the interviews, I have a film list of Sharon Knight on my homepage, I will show later. In one of your interviews, you were talking about your classmate, John Frawley. Does that mean that you were not in a physical classroom, but you were companions in this course, in this long distance course?
We both studied at the Adult Education Centre with Mike Edwards.
Oh. So he was not a class roommate with Olivia Barclay, but you saw John Frawley in a class with Mike Edward.
Yes, but then we were both studying with Olivia. on correspondence. But I don't know if Olivia was John's tutor or if it was Sue Ward.
Like she was with you.
Yeah, I don't know if John went and stayed with her, because I have to say with Olivia, she loved the men.
Oh, okay.
She really loved men.
Okay.
And, you know, John is so witty. And even all those years ago, you've got this very saturnine figure with John Frawley, but his wit would just, you'd be curling up on the floor because he's so sharp.
Did you experience John Frawley personally in the class with Mike Edward? Did you have a private contact or connection?
No, we used to chat. Everybody in Mike's class
in the break
chatted.
with having tea, you
Yes,
talked to him,
yes.
but you didn't visit him. You didn't visit him privately.
No,
or he
no,
did.
no.
It was just a contact in the classroom.
Yeah, yes.
And what was your impression of John Frawley in those days? Besides that, he was very witty.
Very quiet, very, very serious.
Okay.
And of course, he was very driven.
How old was he when you saw him?
Well, this was 85, 86, 87. I imagine I don't know John's chart actually. I imagine he's about the same age as me. So
okay. So you were how old then?
Oh, sorry. Let's just pause the recording.
Okay, this recording started again.
Okay, let's start it. Yeah, so 85. Yes, I was in my mid-30s. So I guess John was in his mid-30s.
Okay.
Mid-30s.
So let's talk a little bit about John Frawley. He had this class with you. How long did it take him to publish the first paper? He was quite a publisher, right?
Yes, the Astrologer's Apprentice came out. Well, I've got them all here. I don't know what date his first one was, but you see, there was not only was there him, of course, but there was Deb Holding, who published a traditional astrologer.
Yes.
And then in America, there was Carol Putin and Carol Wiggers.
Okay.
And of course, Lee Lehman.
Yes. Was Lee Lehman a pupil of Olivia Berkeley?
Oh, very much so.
How did that happen?
I don't know if Lee met Olivia when Olivia went to America, but I know that she and Maggie had Olivia to go and stay with them.
Okay.
And again, I think this must have been when this edition was first published of Christian Astrology, because Olivia was on a sales tour. Yeah, so it's 1985. So
in 1985, Olivia Berkeley published was part of publishing this modern English version of Christian Astrology by William Lilly.
Yeah.
In 1985. Okay, and she was influencing a lot of the first horary students. So would you say that Olivia Berkeley is responsible for the horary astrology in America?
I couldn't speak for the Americans, because as I say, they had access to Sibley and to Luke Broughton.
Okay.
But certainly with the personality that Lee Lehman is in America, and the fact that Lee subsequently joined forces with Deb Holding
in Britain.
Yeah, I think that Lee is probably one of the drivers of horary astrology.
Okay.
But they use the outer planets. Deb Holding.
Yes. So let's talk about Deborah Holding. Who is that? What do you know about Deborah Holding?
Her sun's conjunct my moon. She's a Taurus sun.
Okay.
An amazing, dedicated personality who is a brilliant teacher and speaker. She's absolute dynamite force to be reckoned with. In the early days, as I say, she set up the Traditional Astrologer publication, and she had a chap called David Plant, who was also a QHP. So basically it was formed of QHP, Sue Ward. I don't know if Olivia taught Deb, or I have a feeling she did, or if Sue Ward taught Deb Holding.
So who is Sue Ward?
Sue Ward is very much unsung here in the UK. She's there's only two other totally traditional astrologers I know of in the UK. Sue Ward is one, and Barbara Dunn is the other.
No, when you say that, you say the same thing that I do on my homepage, defining traditional astrology as somebody without the outer planets.
Yes.
So Sue Ward and yourself, you are not using Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
No.
And we will talk about that later. So we have Sue Ward. Sue Ward is, I believe, the teacher of Helena Avila and Luis Herrero, right?
Probably.
Yeah,
yes.
they told that in an interview. Yes.
Yes, they certainly work together. So you see, Sue is quite a quiet person. She's not on social media.
Okay.
She doesn't push herself. She doesn't publicize herself.
Well, she published a book in German with Reinhard Stiele from Astrologer.
Did she?
Publication for Astrologer Verlag. Yes, she did. I have it behind me. Okay, so we have a very small group in Great Britain, sort of developing out of the Olivia Barclay tradition, and we have John Frawley, which is rather well known, horary astrologer and native astrologer. Do you know, is John Frawley using the outer planets?
I think so.
Okay.
I attended one of his lectures when he came over to the UK a couple of years back, and he was using the outer planets.
When you say he came over, is he not living in Great Britain?
No, I believe he lives in Poland.
Ah, okay. He's from Poland nowadays.
But
he was British. He was British originally.
And his wife is Polish.
Yes, okay. So we have a small group, a small network. Do we have an organization of the pure traditional astrologer without the outer planets? Anything like that exists, like the association of pure traditional astrology or something like that?
I wish that's something I've been thinking about for a long time.
Well, worldwide you might have quite a number of people. It might be 50 to 100 members.
Yeah, I did think about starting it on Facebook, but there's some very good groups on Facebook, and I'm quite vocal when people put in modern astrology. But a little bit of sort of background personal history. I sold my previous house just over 3 years ago because I wanted to focus all my energy on studying all the new material that was coming out and trying to become a better astrologer for my clients. And so I bought this house 3 years ago. It's smaller than my last house, so I didn't have to spend so much time doing the garden and maintenance and things. But then, unfortunately, my mother suffered a couple of strokes.
Yes,
and she now lives with me, and I'm her full-time carer. So I don't have the mental space to start a new group for traditional.
Yeah, that's okay. I was wondering, considering your pure approach of traditional astrology, how did it come about that somebody like you became the chair of a lot of people who are psychological astrologers? The APAI, the Association for Professional Astrologers International.
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I mean, I lark around.
Well, you didn't have to accept the position. Why did you accept it?
Oh well, at the time, what actually happened was there had been issues, as there are in lots of associations, and it got very nasty.
Okay.
I was just a committee member, and I was there as the token traditional astrologer. And when I say it got nasty, it went to law. That's how nasty it was. But then everything was dropped. And the person who then took over as chair, Maureen Ravenhall, she steered the APAI through that very sticky, nasty patch. And then when she decided to retire, I was the youngest, I think.
When was that?
Oh, 16, 17 years ago now.
So 2003, somewhere around
yes,
that.
Yes, it would have been. Yeah, 2000. Yes, I think it was about 2003. So I was asked to take over as chair. And
so we have the rather amusing situation that a pure traditional astrologer, Sharon Knight, is heading an organization which is 80% psychological astrologers, right?
Yes, 90%.
Okay, we take the desktop to show the viewers of this video something. Okay, we have a homepage in this channel, as AstroTalk Kanal. It's the address is astrotalk.vonabisweb.de. And we have a subsite, Becoming a Traditional Astrologer in the 21st Century, a new series of videos. And this talk with Sharon Knight is part of this new series. When we remember your time with Olivia Barclay, that was horary astrology, right?
It was horary astrology. It was Regiomontanus, and Olivia used the outer planets.
Yes. So now tell us, let's get out of the desktop for a moment. Now tell us, now you're starting with Olivia Barclay and their influence on you. And you got to know Deborah Holding, you got to know Sue Ward, you got to know Mike Edward and other people who are studying with you. So there's a development from now on. How did that happen? The next step?
Well, the next step was ditching the outer planets. And so after I'd qualified with Olivia, which I think was in 1990 or 1990.
That would be the Quality Aurora Practitioner.
Yeah.
The abbreviation is QP.
QHP.
QHP, right.
Yeah.
Is that difficult to get that diploma?
Yes, it's really hard.
Is it hard today too?
In fact, it's harder today.
Oh, okay.
I think to get it.
I had a talk with Tanya Daniels. Do you know her?
Yes, of course.
Tell us, for viewers who have seen the video with Tanya Daniels, how do you know her? How did you meet her? How is your relationship with Tanya Daniels?
I adore Tanya, and she is a fantastic astrologer, traditional astrologer.
Okay.
She studied with the STA, with Deb Holding.
That is the School for Traditional Astrology. And that is a school without the outer planets.
No, it's with the outer planets.
Oh, it's with the outer planets. Okay.
Yeah. I think, as I say, only the QHP, Sue Ward School and my school are the only ones that forbid using the outer planets.
So if I would like to become a QHP, I would have to exclude the outer planets to get this certificate. Yes.
Totally.
Okay.
For Barbara, it's an immediate fail. If on the diploma course, she's a little bit more lenient on the certificate course, because I'm also a tutor. I'm still a tutor for the QHP. So if we have someone who mentions the outer planets, I will say, I want you to redo this again, and never ever in your whole life must you mention the outer planets.
As long as you want to have our certificate.
Yeah. And then when they go to do the diploma, if it would be an immediate fail if they.
Okay. So what happens if I would do this course, QHP? I get the diploma, the highest level of the QHP, and later you find out that I use the outer planets. Would you revoke the diploma?
No. No, because it's like us learning to drive a car here in the UK.
Okay,
You
so you
learn
have to pass the exam, and after you are free how you drive.
Of course, because
Oh.
once you have a solid background and framework, then how you use it, if you want to use the asteroids with it, if you want to use, the which
Vertex
system,
or
yeah,
Chiron
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
that's up to
Lilith.
you.
So
You see,
basically you have the same approach as Helen and Louis. You say, let's start learning the system and the philosophy of the system. And if you are good in that, then you can step outside the framework. That's your approach.
it's your privilege. Oh, sorry, Volker.
I stopped the recording. Okay, the recording started again. Now let's go to Sharon Knight. You have this QHP diploma in your pocket, and how that's orrery, right?
Yes.
But you are doing mundane astrology, and you're doing nativities, and you're doing elections. You're doing the whole framework of astrology.
Yeah.
So how did Sharon Knight become a full aspect traditional astrology?
Well, again, fortunately, that's through Olivia, because I went down to stay with her one time, and she said, there's a new project starting in America, and if you want to remain as one of my tutors, Olivia was not subtle. Blackmail was her forte. So if you want to remain as a tutor, you have to contribute to this.
You have to be a subscriber. It was a subscription project. Robert Hand, Robert Soller, Robert Schmidt, and the project Hindsight.
Yeah, Hindsight. And of course, once I started getting these little envelopes through the door, it was fascinating. But what people don't realize, this was I think it started in 92. We didn't have the internet.
Yes.
And I'm not academically clever. It takes me a long time to work through things, and I had nobody I could ask questions of. But then I think in 1995, Rob Zoller came over to the UK. So I've got in the bookcase behind me, I've got loads and loads of Project Hindsight.
Yes.
And Rob Zoller came over to England, and I met him, and he said he'd just started a teaching course.
That was his first course.
That was his first course. So I immediately signed up. And sadly for me, a lot of the papers and his letters to me, they got flooded, but I've still got, and again, it's all going to be backwards.
Yeah, okay.
But this is all I've got left. I just read out this letter that he wrote to me. It's much later, 98. What signifieth the new address? Meanest thou that ye oldie address below no longer obtaineth? Please straighten me out. Obviously I'd written to him that I'd moved.
Yes.
So I was very lucky then to actually experience Rob Zoller. And in those days, he recorded the lessons on a cassette.
Yes.
And sent them with the papers. But all you could hear over his voice was this, where his Parkinson's was so bad. Because when I tried
already 1998, he had strong
yes, he had strong
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's. Yeah, I mean, amazing. He lasted as long as he did.
Yes.
Yes, because I tried to get the tapes digitally remastered, but they couldn't do it because there was no way they could exclude the background noise.
Yeah.
Yes. So then I started studying with Rob, and of course, Rob was still using the outer planets.
Yes.
I actually think it was Mike Edwards who said to me, don't use the outer planets, do away with them. So it was from Mike Edwards I'd already started to ignore the outer planets.
Okay.
But it was actually when I met Ben Dykes for the first time. I think he came over in 2007. Yeah, I've got the date in a book I bought from him, and he said he doesn't use the outers, and I said, well, I've kind of stopped using them, but people expect them in my natal delineations. They expected reference to the outer planets, and he said, well, if you don't reference them, they're not, they're not going to be any the wiser. So I think it was Ben ultimately that made me completely drop the outer planets.
Okay.
And it was possibly also Ben who got me to use whole sign houses. And I resisted. Whoever it was who said to me, you've got to use whole sign houses, I resisted because my sun with a quadrants-based system is in the 4th. And I wanted one planet, well, 2 planets angular. And I really wanted my sun to not only have its exaltation, but to be angular.
Okay.
And
that got lost with the whole sign houses?
Yeah, it moved into the 5th.
Oh, okay.
So it's not angular.
Okay.
But then analysing my life, it really makes more sense with the sun in the 5th.
Okay.
Very, very much so.
So one could say how to become a traditional astrologer in the pure sense that we have talked about. It started with Olivier Barclay, and getting in contact with John Frawley was a side effect. But it was Mike Edward.
Edwards.
And then hindsight, Robert Soller especially. And then later on, Benjamin Dykes, which is a very important figure in translating in the astrological community old texts. Now let's get back shortly to Robert Soller. There are 2 versions of his diploma course. You mentioned that in one of your videos. Is the younger one better or worse than the first one?
Well, there's actually 3 or 4 diploma courses, because there was Rob's original one.
Yes.
Then there was the one that he developed in the 2000s.
Yes.
And that one produced Ona Dosha in Turkey, who is amazing.
Okay.
Obviously Ben Dykes and Stephen Birchfield, who's in Norway. And Stephen is, well, now he's sort of my guru, go-to. He and I discuss the translations, and we work together on the text that Ben's translating.
I think Tanya Daniels mentioned the Norwegian guy. What was his name again?
Stephen Birchfield.
Birchfield, B-U-R-C-H?
No, B-I-R-C-H-F-I-E-L-D.
Okay. And he's still teaching Robert Zoller's technique, right?
He's working with, well, again, you see, we're growing constantly with thanks to Ben. As the new material is coming out, we are discovering that a lot of what Rob taught he taught to the best of his knowledge at that time with the materials that were available. But for instance, when we look at Fidaria, which of course is a Persian technique, and it doesn't...
And we are talking about the 8th and 9th century.
Yes, okay. It was Al-Andigar where this first appears, this Fidaria technique. Prior to that, it was decennials, but now it's the Fidaria, and it comes out as sort of a fully formed system. And it appears that the nodes come at the end of the sequence, whether it's a diurnal or nocturnal chart. Now, Rob read it as in the nocturnal chart, the nodes came after Mars. And it was Rob who sort of inadvertently sowed the seeds of dissension about using the nodes in Fidaria. He did subsequently write to Stephen Birchfield, and Stephen has kindly given me a copy of the email where Rob says he was wrong,
Okay.
and that the nodes definitely come at the end of both sequences.
Okay. So basically we are talking about the second version, and you said there are 4 versions, so there must be something more.
Yes, so Rob's personal tuition, and there's Clelia Romano in Brazil. She was also taught by Rob Zoller, and of course this is all on correspondence course, but there's very, very, very few, I mean maybe half a dozen people who genuinely hold Rob Zoller's perfect course accreditation, and that is AMA.
Yes.
He then joined forces with New Library.
That is London, right?
It was London, and I believe with someone in South Africa. And that course had the title DMA, Diploma in Medieval Astrology. And that's where things went badly wrong for Rob, because
did they change the course or on the financial side?
I think both. They changed the course, and people were claiming, even after Rob had died, an astrologer that I used to have respect for on his website put he was a DMA, and I know full well he wasn't, but who's there to argue? So then New Library had the DMA. So people, it is Rob's course, but they're not taught personally by Rob Zoller.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's more or less the overall picture of this development.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you are in 2021, and you are a pure traditional astrologer.
Yeah.
And now we're going to the homepage I made for this talk. So this is a subsite on my homepage, and we have a film list. So for people who want to know more about your background, there's quite a number of videos here with Sharon Knight, so we don't have to talk about all that.
Yeah.
We can now go to the development in the scene, which is quite interesting, because now we have translations, and Benjamin Dike isn't the only one. So we wouldn't talk about the very old text which you can find here. We will talk about the Arabic authors, which is one of Ben Dike's thing. For example, this is a book by Benjamin Dykes, The Works of Saul and Mashallah. And then we have this book here, which is Persian Nativities. And then we have a link of Ben Dykes' books later. If you go down this page, which is more or less, there we have Olivia Barclay and John Frawley. We have Project Hindsight, and there we have Benjamin Dykes. And you find all his books on his homepage as well. So basically, we are in a situation that people like you are reading new translations. What does that do with you?
Well, I'm looking primarily, the new translations that have come out have been Abu Mashar. So I have oh, it's not in that pile. I have Charles Burnett's translation of the Greater Introduction.
With Yamamoto from Japan.
Yeah, and
that would be this one. I could take the no, let's go back to the Arabic authors. So we have Abu Mashar, The Great Introduction. So there's one book by Benjamin Dykes.
And that's what I would recommend.
And we were just talking about this one. That would be Charles Burnett and Keiji Yamamoto. So these are the interesting experience I had with these two books is It's the same Arabic text in the original, and two different groups translated. On one side, the astrologer Benjamin Dykes, and he's a classicist as well. And the professor in the Academia, like Charles Burnett, is one of the grandmasters of the history of astrology in the world. And if you look at those books and put them beside, if you take both books and beside one, it's a totally different translation, right?
No, it's not totally different. It's Ben's approach is totally different. He has tried, and you can see this development in Ben's translations over the years. He is looking at these translations from the perspective of a practicing astrologer.
Yes.
Which Charles isn't.
Yes.
So although Charles obviously, I mean, he's got to have astrological knowledge because he's translated so much.
Yes, yes.
And it's the same with Shlomo Seller. You know,
yes.
He's not a practicing astrologer, but I'm just ploughing through some of his Ibn Ezra books there.
Yes. That would be Ibn Ezra and the books of Shlomo Seller, he's a translator from Hebrew, because Ibn Ezra was one of the first astrologers in the history of astrology writing in Hebrew, and Shlomo has produced a number of very interesting books, translations, critical editions. But he's coming from the university background for critical editions, and he's not a practitioner astrologer. That's right.
No, and just sort of digressing slightly, this is where it's going to be such an advantage with Elena and Lewis, because they're able to translate the Portuguese and the Spanish.
Yes.
But they've also got the academic credentials, which Ben has as well. But this is the thing, I think Ben has gone through these translations and slightly, because of his knowledge of practicing astrology, he has slightly jiggled the layout of the translations. And of course, he's provided diagrams.
Yes.
Now, if we'd had these diagrams when Project Hindsight was producing stuff, I'm sure I would be a good astrologer, because it makes it very simple, or not simple, but it makes it easier to follow the reasons behind doing certain things and how you arrive at the computations. So that's why I endorse Ben's work over Charles Burnett. And then, of course, you factor in the price.
Oh
difference.
Yes, oh yes. The Charles Burnett volume is 260 euros.
Yeah,
it's 200 and
about £220.
Yes, yeah. And now let's come to closing this very interesting talk with you. If somebody would came up to your doorstep, having no knowledge at all about astrology, and he wants to become a pure traditional astrologer in your sense and my sense, and not with the outer planets, what would you tell him what he needs as a talent stack to reach that goal, to be a traditional astrology in the true sense? What would you say to him?
You need patience. You need to understand a little bit of philosophy, whether it's Platonic or Aristotelian or Stoic. You need to have an idea of human nature. So if you're 16, 17, 18, you haven't had the life experiences. So you can study the written word, but it's only when, as you mature and you encounter more situations, that you can apply the astrology in a truly beneficial way to the client. But for someone, say, in their 20s, who's had a little bit of life experience, perhaps coming up to their first Saturn return, you've got to want to learn it. There are no shortcuts. It's a time-based study. You cannot read something overnight and become a traditional astrologer. It takes more time, I would suggest, than becoming a psychological astrologer, because a psychological astrologer, and I will be drummed out of every association probably, but a psychological astrologer, you can talk an awful lot and say nothing, and the people are happy because they've had your time. Traditional astrology is more concrete, more factual. It's not so wordy, of course, unless one wants to pad it out with lots of words. It's much more direct and pertinent, I feel. I'm not saying psychological astrology is bad, because that's what I grew up with. That's what I learned first. And you need to understand the psyche of people, but you do that through the temperament or the humours of the native in front of you. And I think if you can go back to the understanding the temperament and the humours, even if you don't want to study traditional astrology to the nth degree, if you can learn the temperament and the humours, it'll give you much more insight into why people behave as they were. If there's a predominance of feminine signs, planets in feminine signs, ascendant feminine signs, people are going to be more compliant and would prefer you to perhaps give them a bit more guidance. But those with the masculine signs, the fire or the air signs, they will come to an astrologer for another opinion. They may not act on it, but they recognize they're at a crossroads and they want something, a different perspective, but they will then go and make up their own minds.
Okay,
so I think
that is sort of an abstract position. What books would you recommend? Would you recommend this book, for example, from Helena Avila?
Exactly.
To start with?
That and Joseph Crane's books are the prime.
Okay. How about the second book of Helena and Lewis? Would you recommend that as well? The course book?
Yeah. To be honest, I was a bit disappointed.
Okay.
I've got it,
okay.
Naturally. But I think On the Heavenly Spheres is one of the best books
But
available.
you would recommend this one, right?
Joseph Crane,
yes.
Very good. And of course, Charlie Obert.
Now
Charlie has dropped The Outer Planets.
Yes.
So this is why I don't recommend Charlie's earlier books.
Yes.
Well, I do recommend them, and they're down on my course bibliography. Of Charlie's books are on there. But for straightforward, easy to understand and follow, clear and concise books, Helena and Lewis' book, and Joseph Crane are the simplest. And then, of course, Ben's Introduction to Traditional Astrology, but that isn't a step-by-step guide as Eleanor and Lewis's book and Joseph Crane's.
Okay. So which book of Charles Obert would you not recommend?
Well, I recommend all of them.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
one has to keep in mind that the first books would use the outer planets and the later ones, the newer ones wouldn't. So basically, now we are on the subject of modern books. How about Demetra George's book? Let me see. That would be. Oh, that's about her. She wrote a new book. I have to put this in there. She wrote a new book about traditional astrology, Volume 1. Would you recommend that too?
It's written by someone who is steeped in the tradition as well as modern.
Yes.
But I still feel that Helena and Lewis's book is the best step-by-step guide. I've got Demetra's book naturally, but Helena's and Lewis's book is the easiest book, I feel.
Yes. How about
follow.
Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology, the thick volume?
Well, that is a master achievement.
Okay.
And I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to Chris. I said to Chris, I love the first part, the history bit, because I love history. But I feel that almost if he'd just published the second part, he would have got the message across more, because I do know a lot of people who are going into astrology have only been studying it perhaps for a year or 2 years. They have said to me they found it very heavy going. Well, of course, because I've got 30 odd years experience, it's, to me, it just flows.
Yes.
It's a brilliant book. And again, that is on my list of recommended books if you want to study traditional astrology.
Yes.
It is a must-have. But I say, I have said that to Chris, that this is the feedback I've had from students, that they get lost in the history bit.
So basically you are saying the wonderful book of Chris Brennan, Hellenistic Astrology, is not for the beginner.
No.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is start with Helena and Lewis's book.
Yes.
And then from there, how far does one get if one studies the Helena Lewis book page by page? What happens when they're through with it? Are they practicing astrologers then?
That's impossible to answer, because it depends if someone's heart is in it.
You think with the right incentive and the right heart on the right place, Lewis's and Helena's book is sufficient to start a practice?
It's sufficient to start with friends.
Okay, not for money, but with friends, pro bono, and then getting practice. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I think you need to get practice. I think after I gained my QHP, I think it took me about 5 years before I started charging. I mean, I was getting paid to tutor by Olivia, but I didn't actually charge until I'd got what I felt was a really good understanding as to why people were coming to me for horary astrology.
Yes.
And of course, then you learn to use the consultation chart.
But basically you are saying it is not necessary for a new beginner in traditional astrology to read Vettius Valens or Manilius or Dorotheus von Sidon or Thrasyllus or Hipparchus or Ptolemy or Julius Firmicus Maternus?
That comes after you've absorbed on the heavenly spheres. You see, Manilius, what a beautiful book. And again, you had to read it with Olivia's course, with the QHP. That was required reading.
Manilius?
Yes.
The poem was requested as a literature.
It was required reading.
Okay. So now let's come back to your personal experience. One of the problems with the old texts, and even we have now these wonderful new critical editions of Academia and from Benjamin Dykes, you have still the problem to decide what you use and what you don't use. I realize, I think you're using the theory of the lots, right?
Yes, I use them. You see, my feeling, my personal feeling, is that if the chart as presented doesn't give you the information that is required, using the lots is subsidiary, should be subsidiary.
A third level to get to the third stage. Some people say you need 3. three informations to be sure something is valid. So the planets is the third level, and something was the second level, and the third level were the lots. Would you agree on that theory? You need three times confirmation to be sure something is real.
That's more horror-y. That is
Okay.
more horror-y. You see, most of my client work is actually natal, and because of what's gone on globally over the last year, currently the clients I'm getting, the new clients I'm getting, are coming for profession or vocational ideas. I won't say guidance or ideas. And so I use the lots of profession.
Okay.
But I use Ptolemy, to find you look at Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And of course,
Ptolemy only used a lot of fortune and no other lots. And he didn't have the
yes,
differentiation in sects for calculating.
no, well, that's where Ptolemy went wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And he, if someone can prove to me he was an astrologer,
he wasn't. No way.
Exactly.
He was never practicing astrology. He was more. Ptolemy was a type like revisionists, like people like Morin and Kepler, throwing out things instead of
yes, instead of being able to work with them. Yeah.
So how did you solve the problem for yourself if you have old texts and they are different? They are not talking about the same thing. For example, in Ibn Ezra, you find how Ibn Ezra talks about other authors, and he's quite strict on that.
Yes.
So basically, how do you deal with that problem if you have two texts and they're contradictory? How do you find a way to choose?
I look and see which one works with my chart, because after all, my chart is my life is the only life I really know.
Okay.
So if one method has the edge over the other method, I will use that. And I have to be honest, it comes down to time. If I were a court astrologer and retained by a king or queen, I would take all the time in the world to work through all the different techniques.
You would do that?
Oh, yeah. If
all the techniques, if you have a full-time job with Queen Elizabeth II, a full-time job, you would use all the techniques.
Wouldn't it be bliss?
Well, that was the old days. That was
yes. I'm born in the wrong time, mind you. I'm probably born in the wrong sex to have been an astrologer in those days, and I want to keep my head. But I'm a jobbing astrologer. I have clients every week, and I also do written charts. So that takes a long time. So I've narrowed my focus down to what is the client asking for as to what techniques I use. But primarily, I will look at, as I say, temperament and sect and triplicity.
Yes.
They're the major factors.
How about terms?
Well, that comes into delineating.
Egyptian or Chaldean?
Egyptian.
And how about the decans, the faces?
I do use those, because some of the authors say, oh, they're nothing. But Firmicus says when a planet's in its face or decan, it is a man who's at home.
Okay.
So, but obviously,
would you recommend it for a general rule to use all those techniques you just mentioned?
I think if you want to correctly delineate a chart, which means delineating correctly the 7 planets and the degree of the ascendant, then if you're not using the terms triplicities and decans and exaltations, you're not an astrologer.
Okay, so basically you're saying if somebody wants to start from scratch and become a traditional astrologer, read the book of Helena Avila and her husband.
Yes.
And then start trying yourself out with friends, no money involved. And then later on become a cultivated traditional astrologer in reading the old texts.
Yes.
And the techniques you're using, try them out with your own chart.
Yes.
and decide on that experience what works for you and what doesn't work. And that is basically how to become a traditional astrology in the 21st century, right?
I think that's a pretty good summation. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sharon Knight, the president of the APAA. I'm now coming to the last part of this video today. How do you see the scene of astrology in the traditional community and the rest of the astrology community? What's happening nowadays? We have March 2021. What's going on? How many fights and battles and crusades against each other instead of unite? What's happening?
Well, unfortunately, traditional astrology is still looked down upon here in the UK. All those in the main astrological circle will pull my leg endlessly about not using the outer planets. I don't care. I'm happy with what I do. There will never be an acceptance in the UK of traditional astrology because the modern psychological astrologers in the main here in the UK have not studied traditional astrology and don't want to study it. So there can't be a coming together from that end. However, myself, Barbara, Sue, we learnt modern psychological astrology in the beginning because that's all there was. So we cover the spectrum, whereas the modern psychological astrologers, in the main, it's the term prediction that they are vehemently against. Anything that includes prediction is an absolute no-no.
So basically, I will say something which you will not accept because otherwise they would chase you out of the APAI. I say, from my perspective, having a psychological background, I learned with Nikolaus Klein, esoteric astrology, which was psychological. I make the statement very strict. An astrologer who is not at least has written Elena and Lewis' book as a minimum is an uncultivated astrologer. That is my statement, and you should not react to that. So basically, thank you very much. We talk after I stop the recording. Thank you very much, Sharon Knight, the president and chair of the Association for Professional Astrologers International. Und herzlichen Dank fürs Vorbeischauen und auf bald.